Yep. Evans, doing a sound check. How does that sound? Chat mind. Are you on our Discord server? Loud and clear. Oh, there's an echo. How about now? Let me see where the echo is coming from. This is muted. Can somebody please share the Discord server link with Chatmind? Okay, let me see where the echo is coming from. Okay, Evans, well noted. Let me see where the echo is coming from. How about now? Is there still an echo? How about now? Do we still have an echo? Yeah, Sam, I was trying to fix some audio issues. Confirm if there is still an echo. Faye, yeah, you're on time. We haven't started yet. Thank you, Faye, for confirming. Wonderful. So we are at currently 72 users. Let's just give it 10 minutes to allow more students to join, and then we can proceed. In the meantime, I hope you all are on our Discord server. That is where all the communication happens. Too low. How about now? If you're not on Discord, I've shared a link in the chats, and please, if you can just copy that link somewhere else, so that if you see somebody else asking for the server, you can share the link. All right, thank you, Adam, for confirming. Abednego Muma, how are you doing? Kevin, thanks for confirming. I hope everybody has their coffee. All right. I'm looking for Irene. Has anybody seen Irene? Irene was very lost in our last class. I want to find out where she is now. If somebody sees Irene, tell her to join the class. There was somebody else, Titus. If anybody sees Titus, tell him to join the class. All right, I think we can just proceed. So far, this is what we've learned. Let me just open a notepad here. I think I have to move these okay, I'll just move them later. New text document. So far, this is what we've handled, or this is what we've learned. In the last class yesterday, the fill-in class, it was not our main class. Dak, happy Ramadan. Nothing but music. We'll see. So in the fill-in class yesterday, we looked at computer basics, and we looked at navigating your computer, creating folders, deleting folders. We looked at installing applications or software, and we also looked at the terminal or the command prompt. Remember I said as an engineer, you have to make the command prompt your home. You have to feel at home when you open the command prompt, which takes a lot of exercise, a lot of hands-on exercises. We also looked at the request response cycle. We've said a website is basically a bunch of files stored somewhere in somebody else's computer. We'll look at what that means in a second. And when you go to your browser and you visit a website, you are just basically making a request. And then the server will respond with a response. So that is the request response cycle. We looked at that. We also looked at how digital information flows from your laptop to your router to your internet service provider. And we also installed coding tools. We installed VS Code, we installed Sublime Text, and we installed the Python interpreter. We also looked at software execution flow from the hard drive to the RAM to the CPU and so on and so forth. And here we also looked at the software requirements. We said that each software has its own requirements. One might require a lot of RAM, the other one might require a lot of CPU, and so on and so forth. And we also said that the whole business of software engineering is taking problems, breaking them down into smaller problems, and then fixing those smaller problems. Features can also be referred to as problems. For example, if you hit like right now on the video, to a normal user that is a feature, like, hey, YouTube has this like button. But to an engineer, that is a problem. Yep. So these are the prerequisites for this class. If you did not, if you already know what these are, or if you already are familiar with all this, then you can proceed with the class. But if you're not, you can still proceed, but you might get lost in some of the things we do. Yeah. So we want to see what exactly do we want to build by the end of this course. I do have a project here that I've worked on called Soma Stories. It's a pay-as-you-go platform. What does pay-as-you-go mean? For example, if you have tried blogging platforms like Medium, even our own local news applications, they charge you monthly for you to read their content. I think some charge you 1,000 bob, some 500 for you to read your content, for you to read their content. That format of consuming is called subscription based. Okay, you have a monthly subscription and then you pay to consume the content they give you. So that is subscription. So Soma Story, what Soma Story does is it gets rid of the subscription. There's no subscription. So assuming you're in a matatu in the morning and you're heading to work and you see a very interesting story, for example, a story such as this one, you don't have to have a subscription to read this story. You can just unlock the story depending on the amount of tokens required. So this one is locked, that's why I cannot unlock it. So if you are not logged in, the platform will ask you to log in to register or sign in. There's also the comments features, but as you can see, the comment box is disabled if you are not logged in. And so on, and then we display related stories here and whatnot. So a user can log in. If you don't have an account, you can register. But this is the web interface. Just to confirm, are you guys seeing whatever it is I'm displaying? Oh yeah, there was a lag. Let me see what happened. That's weird. All right, let me just fix that in a second. All right. All right. I apologize for that. Technology problems. How about now? Is the screen visible? All right, I apologize for that. So I don't know where it got lost, but just to briefly go through what we've covered so far. Um, yeah, let me sort that. So let me just sort that real quick. All right. Oh, from the prerequisites. Okay, fine. So we've said these are the concept of the topics we've covered so far. We've covered computer basics in the fill-in class yesterday. We've talked. We looked at how to navigate your computer, creating folders, deleting folders, creating files, installing software, and the terminal, the CMD. We also looked at the request response cycle. We looked at how digital information flows. We looked at, we also installed coding tools. We installed VS Code, Sublime Text, and the Python interpreter. I have shared a link which guides you through installing all this if you are not able to. And then we also looked at how we solve problems in software engineering by breaking bigger problems down into smaller problems. And we said, as engineers, we look at features as problems. We said, for example, if you hit the like button on YouTube, a normal user will say, oh, YouTube has this like button. But to a software engineer, that is a problem. And a lot of smaller problems are behind that feature having been implemented. So those are the prerequisites. So we've also said we want to look at a sample of a platform we want to build by the end of this course. Not exactly the same copy as what I want to show you, but something close to whatever it is we have here. So there is this platform called Soma Stories, which allows people to only pay for the specific stories or podcasts they listen to. So you have the stories here. You have the books feature, you have the podcasts, and so on and so forth. We have a few podcasts here. So there's the web interface, whatever it is you use to access on your browser, and there's a mobile app. Currently, we only have the Android app. You can install on your device. This is the Android app. So it's interesting to note, if you can just download the app and check it out, you will notice that if you log in using the web interface, or if you register using the web interface and you read a story, and you download the Android app and do the same thing, whatever information that is available on the browser is whatever information you will see on your mobile app. So for example, if you have, let me just log in here. So right here it shows I have 360 tokens. So I can unlock 360 stories that cost 1 token. So if I go to the mobile app, I will see the same number of I'll see the same balance because both the web interface and the Android app, they share the same backend logic, or you can also say they share the same database. Okay, and so we want to build something similar. So we want to build a website that will display whatever our platform does, and you want to build an Android application. Through all this, you are going to learn a lot of things. First, we will learn about front-end engineering, what it means. We also learn about back-end engineering, what it means. We are also going to work with databases. We will understand the whole concept of databases. We will also touch on cybersecurity, because once you deploy something to the world, you will get a lot of bad actors who want to break your application. So you look at the cybersecurity bit, how we secure our application. And you'll also look at the operations bit. How do we make our application available? How do we make it fast? How do we make the data accurate? Because you would imagine if somebody logs in using the browser, they say 360 tokens, and then they log in using their mobile app and they say 2 tokens. They grow a distaste towards your platform, and they will not use it, okay? Or they will tell other people, hey, this platform is it's made of crooks, or it's a scam. So you'll also look at all those things. And that is why this course is called Self-Taught Computer Science. Initially it was Self-Taught Software Engineering, but it's Self-Taught Computer Science, because we are not focusing on the software engineering bit. We are focusing on the entire process, how to make our application secure, how to make our application available, and so on and so forth. And that is what we'll be building. So the idea, we still do not have an idea of what we want to build. So if you have an idea of what you want us to build, you can share in the Discord server in the general tab, and then we can discuss and see the idea that we can pick and go with. So that is it as an introduction for this class. So I do have a teaching methodology, and it basically is broken down into introduction, confusion, patterns, and then mastery. So it's very important you understand this process. Number one, you get introduced to a topic. That is the first step. The second step is confusion. The third step is now identifying patterns. And the fourth step is mastery. Now, a lot of people get lost here. Okay? You get introduced into a concept. You get confused. You don't know what a function is. Why are we using CMD? Why are we creating this file? Why are we installing this? Why can't just the computer do this? And that is the confusion bit. And a lot of people give up right here. Okay, some, not all, but a lot of them get introduced to a topic. They get confused. And our brains has this thing where our brains do not like confusion. Once we hit confusion, we give up. That happens in our relationships. That happens in our schools, and so on and so forth. So right now, some of you are here. You're confused. And it's very okay to be confused. As a matter of fact, you might take quite some time in this stage. But it's important to understand, while you're in the confusion, try to train your mind to identify patterns or to recognize patterns, and then pay attention to those patterns. Okay? Gao, the link is on Discord. So so this is my methodology. First, we get introduced, we get into the confusion phase, we identify patterns, and then once you identify patterns, you slowly graduate into mastery. And it's important to put that in mind. So we said that software is a collection of files, also known as the source code. However, when users use it, it's not like the source code, it's what we call the build version of your application. The files are stored or hosted on a special computer, which is also known as a server. And you can think of a server just like any other desktop computer, but it has special software installed on it that allows it to share the files inside with other users. Okay? Let's look at a website, for example, and how you access it. So servers are mostly in the cloud, and what we mean by cloud, it's just a giant room with multiple servers or multiple computers, sometimes even thousands of computers. So these rooms are also called data centers. If you've ever heard of data centers, that is what it means. So if, for example, I want to host my website, let me just open this. So if, for example, I have to host my website, my website is mosesmbadi.com. okay, mosesmbadi.com, and we've said this website here is just a bunch of files. So if somebody hits Moses Mbadi in the browser, if we do Moses Mbadi in the browser, so what we've done here is we've requested the server to give us the files for mosesmbadi.com, and it has downloaded the files on our computer or in our browser. So for me to be able to serve this file to somebody in Uganda, Nigeria, South Africa, I have to put it somewhere in the cloud on somebody else's computer inside a data center. So what happens is we have a cloud provider. Let's say, for example, we have AWS. Okay. So we have AWS. AWS has data centers all over the planet. If you just go to your browser right now and you Google AWS data centers, excuse me, we Google AWS data centers, you'll see you'll see a whole lot of them. Where do they list the whatever data centers? I need to not there. Let's try global infrastructure. My goodness, what happened? Okay, this is not giving me the information I want, but they have data centers all over, and I think their most recent data center was in South Africa. Okay, so I will go to the data center in South Africa. Now inside this data center, remember we've said there are thousands of computers. Okay, there are thousands of computers inside that data center. So I will go and rent one computer. Okay, and inside this one computer, I will put the files of my website inside that one computer, or a space inside that one computer. So what that does is, that means if somebody is in USA, for example, if somebody is in Somalia, what they can do, they can now request my website files from that small server, that small computer that I've rented on AWS. The same will apply to somebody who is in something like USA. They can just request the files of my website from this small server. So why can't we do the same on our laptops? I mean, we can just store the files inside our laptops and ask our friend to access it. Number one, your laptop is not always on 24/7. Number two, if you allow your laptop to serve files to the internet, that means you're opening up your laptop to hackers, and there is plenty of them. There are so many of them. Okay, so that is why we use a rented computer app in the cloud. So whenever I say a cloud, I mean a data center. That data center can be in South Africa, it can be in Carolina or North Virginia or whatever. That is essentially what cloud computing is in brief. I hope that is well understood. If you have any questions, you can post in the chats. All right, so we want to confirm that we converted our laptops into a software engineering workstation. Okay, so like I said in the previous class, we installed VS Code, and if I just come to the Windows icon down here, I can see, where is my VS Code? Oh, I think, oh yeah, here it is. So I have my VS Code and I can open it. I can open my VS Code, and then this is what it is. So you can think of a VS Code as, just Microsoft Word. You open Microsoft Word, you edit documents. So or I don't have Microsoft Word here. But you can open Microsoft Word and add documents. You can also open a notepad. I'll right click, come to new text document, and then it gets created here. I can open it, and then I can type my instructions inside. Just the same thing I can do right here. But this software is specifically designed for software engineering, okay? It has tools. As you can see, it's very confusing because, you know, it looks like where pilots sit, you know, cockpit or whatever. So it's very confusing, but you'll just understand it slowly. So we also installed Sublime Text. So if I just come here to Windows and to look for Sublime Text, so we have Sublime Text here. Did I open it? Yes. So Sublime Text is just like VS Code, but as you can see, it's very simple. You know, it doesn't have a lot of things. It's just simple. This is for, you know, when you're doing simple programs and whatnot, and you don't want things to be in your way as you write your code. So that is Sublime Text. And the other thing we installed is also the Python interpreter. So if I just come to my applications, I will scroll and look for Python interpreter is here. I can open it, and then I get this looking thing like a command prompt, okay? And you look at how to use this to learn more things later. So I'm assuming that is where you are. You've installed all the three software on your computer, and you also know how to open your CMD. I think somebody was saying that they had issues opening their command prompt. I don't know if it worked or not. So we've said that software is just a bunch of files. Think of any software right now that you're using. If it's WhatsApp, if it's Facebook, if it's TikTok, those are just files on your computer that have instructions inside them. Let's look at a front-end website, for example. So we will look at the source files from Moses Mbadi. Oh, okay. Just a minute. I should have done this a while ago, but let me just do this right now. Mbadi GitHub. I think I need to do this. Mbadi.com GitHub. Let me see if we can get the files. Let me use this one. So we are going to download. Yeah, don't worry about this part, okay? Don't worry about this part. We'll get back to it later. I just want to show you that a website is essentially a collection of files. Oh no, that is not what I was looking for. That is not what I was looking for. Let me try again. Okay, we can look at this project I worked on a very long time ago. So let's just download it. Oh, that's huge. Why is it so huge? Okay. So this was my very old portfolio. As you can see, I worked on it almost 7 years ago. kindly note, at this stage, I did not know how to write code. I just knew how to read files and change things inside the files. I did not know how to write a single line of code. So now this is the website. This is what it looks like. If I go to the browser right now and I try to access this website, if I go to the browser and access this file, this is how it looks like. Okay, we have the home, the about, the resume and whatnot. What was I doing this time? Let me see. Oh, I was a graphic designer. I was not a web developer. This is a lie, by the way. Okay, so so this is the website, and it's locally in our computer, and as you can see, it's just a bunch of files. So we can open, for example, this index.html, and if you're in our computer basics, I think you already know how to open files. So we'll just double click on it, and then you say you want to open with Firefox, and then as you can see, I'm looking at the same thing, but instead of accessing it from a server, I'm accessing it from locally from my computer. So I have the about us, I have the resume, services, blah blah blah, portfolio, and all these are pages in the files. So if I come here, for example, and I delete something, let's see, let's delete the blog. Let's delete it. If I delete it and I come and try and access the blog interface, I've deleted the wrong blog. That is not the blog I wanted to delete. Let me delete something else, like portfolio. Let me delete portfolio. And I come here and refresh, and I try to access the portfolio. As you can see, it's telling me, hey, the page is not found because I've deleted that file. So it's important for you to understand that when we say software, we are just saying a folder which has a bunch of files, and we'll create our own software in a second. So this, how you structure your software depends entirely on how it's your personal preference. So for example, here I have assets, which will store all my images and whatnot. And then I have another images folder, which is separate. This stores like my portfolio images. And then we have all these other files, and you look at them as we proceed. And then we have this file called readme.md. But if we want to edit these files, if we want to edit index.html, for example, which is the main, if we don't want it to say Moses Mbadi, we want it to say like, Moses whatever, we can open this file in VS Code. So how you open the, excuse me, how you open this file in VS Code, you can open VS Code. So we'll just minimize this, and then we come to the Windows icon here, and we open VS Code. So we look for, where is it? Where is VS Code? We'll open VS Code. And then inside VS Code, what you're going to do, we're going to create on file, and then we'll say open folder, and then we look for our file, which is in the downloads, excuse me. What's in body GitHub, and then we open it. You can say don't save. Yes, I trust this over. And then now we have our website open in VS Code, okay? And the first thing you want to do here is we want to change this name to something totally different, okay? So we want to look for this name. How you can do that is, first you have to understand how your project is structured. So for example, in my case, I know that name could be inside index.html. So I'll just open inside index.html. I will go to the file. So instead of Moses Mbadi, I can say, for example, the 8 hours challenge. 8 hours challenge. And then I do save. So I'll come here, I'll say save. And then I go to my browser. So if I go to my browser and refresh, I can see the title has changed, the 8 hours challenge, okay? So what is the takeaway from this? The takeaway from this is you should understand software is just a bunch of files like we've done here. We've downloaded this website and we've changed things by changing a file, okay? But all that is a little bit, confusing, especially we have so many files in that folder. Now, let's create our own project, okay? But before that, let's look at what is coding. So coding is writing instructions in a language that the computer understands. At its core, programming is breaking down problems into smaller digestible pieces. So if you can explain something in step by step, then you can definitely program it. I saw somebody in the chat saying that we should build a billing system. So let's look at how to build a building. Let's look at how we can break that big problem into smaller problems. So in the text editor, I'll open our 8 hours text, and then we state the main problem. The main problem is billing system, okay? Or billing platform. Let me just zoom in. This is our main problem, okay? Is create a billing system. Now, how can we break this problem into smaller problems? So number one, and I've told you, problems are features in the software engineering world. So we will think of features here. Number one, we need a customer, okay? Number two, we need the vendor or seller. And number three, we will need the item. Which item is the customer buying, okay? And then we will also need the, so we have the customer, vendor, seller, vendor or seller, we have the item. What else do we need oh, the amount, item amount, okay? How much is this item worth, okay? So these are the smaller problems we have to solve. So number one, we need to find a way, how can we store the customer so that we can identify this is the customer. Number two, how do we store the vendor so that in our system we identify this is the seller. And then how do we store the item? How do we store the item amount? So this is what we call a pseudocode. If you think about it, when you break a bigger problem down into smaller problems, you write the instructions in a very simple language for you to understand, which is also called pseudocode. At its core, programming is not about memorizing strange symbols. If I open this program that I worked on, I'm looking for, okay, so if I open this sample program that I worked on, okay, as we read through it, you will notice that there is quite a lot of symbols. There are quite a lot of, some weird looking words. And at first, if you're learning how to code, you would think that you need to cram all this. That is wrong, and it's a very wrong approach. You do not need to cram all this, okay? You do not even need to know when to put this here, or when to put this in brackets, or when to do all these things. You only need to understand how to solve your problem, okay? Just solve your problem, break it down into simple steps, and we'll figure out how to write that in a second, right here, okay? So let's build our own program. Let's build a what? Let's build a food. Let's build a system for our kitchen. So number one, what you're going to do is you're going to create a folder for our project. Now remember, I told you that any software is just a bunch of files. Now those bunch of files, they have to be well organized. They have to be inside a folder. So here we're going to create a folder and we call it kitchen, okay? And then this folder, we are going to open it in VS Code, okay? So we are going to look for VS Code, VS Code, and then we open Visual Studio Code. So inside, now whenever you open VS Code, it will open the medium of transaction. Sorry, I skipped that. The platform for the buyer and seller to negotiate the commodity. Oh, that's cool. Okay, we'll look at that in a second. I think we should go with that billing system. We should actually develop the billing system, a very simple billing system. So let me do this. Instead of calling our project kitchen, let's just call it, what name should we use? Can you share names for our billing system? Can you be creative? I'm waiting for somebody to share a name for our billing system. What name should we give it? Oh, stable. Okay, let's go with stable. So we'll say stable. So this is our billing system. By the way, we have officially started the software engineering part of this course, so please pay attention, follow through. So this stable, we want to open it in VS Code. Now remember what we've done so far. We've just created a folder. That is the first step. So now this folder, we are going to open it with a code editor. So we'll go to our Windows, we look for VS Code. We look for VS Code, we open it. And I've said whenever you open VS Code, it will open the last project you are working on, okay? And we'll go to file here. Not that file. We'll go to file, and then we say open folder, and then we will select our folder. So we'll go to desktop, stable. Where is stable? There it is. This should be double B, not single B, double B, like so. We'll open stable. Yes, and now we have our project open in VS Code. So we'll just click yes, trust this author. Now inside VS Code, the first step you always have to do is to create your we will get to how to host a static website, Jako Uma. So we create a file that will explain to us what this project is all about. So how to do that is you can click on the plus here, which is new item, and then you say you want to create a file. The convention is to create a file called readme.md. Okay, .md is just like .txt. It's just like a text document, but you know software engineers, we do our own stuff differently. We don't do stuff like the normal people. So instead of using .txt, we use .md. So now inside .md, we are going now to break down our problem into smaller problems. So number one, we will do, we'll say we want to write the vendor name. We want to write the customer name. We want to write the item, and then the item amount. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Let me see if I'm forgetting. There's something somebody mentioned, I've already forgotten. Medium of transaction. Medium of transaction. Okay, so so the main problem was a billing system. All right, so now you ask yourself, here we are storing two information. We are storing the vendor name, we are storing the item and item amount. We are storing the item and item amount, and we are storing the medium of transaction. Okay, so how can we represent these things into code? Now for our example, we are going to use Python. Sorry. So number one, we want to create a file which will contain Python instructions. Okay, I don't know if you guys can get me clearly. I see the network is misbehaving. Yes, renting the computer is what we call hosting, Millicent. All right, so we want to create our instructions into a file. Now, since we are using the Python programming language, our file will end with a .py. So here, I will come and create a new file and say billing or stable.py. Now, whatever extension you put here depends on the language that you're using. If, for example, we were using Java, we will come here and say stable.java. And if you are using something like Go, we will come here and say stable.go. There are so many programming languages. These are just examples of programming languages. If you wanted to use JavaScript, for example, you will come and say stable.js. Okay. Now it's also important to note that in one project you can have files for different programming languages. So that means in one project you can use several programming languages. An example is what I used when we started the Soma Stories platform. this one uses JavaScript, it uses Python, it uses what else? I've forgotten the languages. Yeah, but it doesn't use one language, it uses multiple languages. So here we are only going to work with where is Python? We are going to work with Python. Now, here's where I told you, you do not need to master the symbols, the icons, and the whatnot. You need to master your problem broken down into tiny pieces. Now, let's bring in our friend here called Copilot. Now, this is what we call GitHub Copilot. It helps you generate code. However, the caveat is here, we are not just giving it instructions, generate the code, and that is it. We want it to generate the code, and we want to look at the code it has generated. Now, for us to understand the code that it has generated, we also have to understand the syntax of the coding language it's using, okay? Now, here is what is common in most programming languages. There are a few things common. Number one is variables. Number two is loops. Number three is, what am I forgetting? We have lists, we have dictionaries, and then we have print statement, how we present data. We also have return statements, okay? And you can practice with all these using your Python interpreter. So if I open my Python interpreter right now, let me just look for the interpreter. Where is it? Python interpreter, and then inside the Python interpreter, we are going to do a couple of things, okay? We are going to store our customer name. So for example, here we're going to say customer is Jared, okay? And then at the bottom, we are going to say print, and then inside the brackets, we say customer. And then it tells us the customer is Jared. So this is what you call a variable in programming language. Just know a variable is just a name that stores our information, okay? And you don't have to master all this, okay? You can just come to something like ChatGPT or Gemini. Let me use Gemini. Gemini. And then you can ask it, create a variable and print it in Python, okay? So Gemini, of course, it will do its thing. It will tell you message equals to hello Python, and then you can print the message, okay? So you can just take this and type it inside your interpreter. For example, we can copy, we come here. This one is not printing, but you can just type it. We can say message equals to hello students, and then down here we'll say print message and then it prints hello students. Now it's important, whatever you are printing right here should be exactly what you typed here. So if you do something else that is not there, if we say messages, it tells you, hey, I do not know what messages is. What is it? So the key takeaway here is to understand variables. Variables is a name we use to store information so that we can refer to it later. Now, why can't we just use this instead of bringing in this? You would imagine, for example, your message is long. Your message is something like, today I am learning how to code, okay? And down here you say print message, okay? It will tell you, today I'm learning how to code. Now the thing is, a print statement can be used multiple times inside your program, okay? So if you say, for example, you want to type this every time, for example, here I can just come and say again print message, and then it prints, today I am learning how to code. We can keep doing that for as many times as we want, and it will just bring us the same output. But if we do not want to use a variable, if we just want to store our information and print it, so we can say print, what am I typing? Oh my goodness. So we can just say print, and then we say today I am learning. What am I doing? I am learning Python, and then we hit enter. So what if we want to print it again? If we want to print it again, I think I lost my live comments here. Let me just sort that. Okay, so assuming you want to print the same message a couple of times, so we'll have to say print, and then again we type the message. Sorry, so we'll say today I am learning Python. Okay, we hit enter. As you can see, it's a lot of work because we have to repeat the same text every time we want to print it. So that is the importance of having a variable. So if it's a variable, for example, we just say message, and you can call your variable anything. You can say message, whatever, but there are some restrictions that we'll look at in a second. So message is, and you want to say the message is today I am learning how to code. And then down here we can just say print, and then we say we want to print mess. Okay, now the variable can be even a single letter. So let's try with a single letter. So we'll say M equals to today I want to learn how to code, and then you hit enter. So when you want to print the message, you'll just say print, you want to print M, and then the message gets printed. And we can do that for as many times as we want without having to type the entire sentence. Now the variable can contain anything. By the way, in this class we're only going to learn about variables and lists. So if you're confused, just stay with me. You are in that stage. You've been introduced, you are now in confusion. Now identify patterns. I want you to identify patterns here. Now let's say, for example, we want to store age. So you'll say age equals to 39, for example, 29. And then you want to print the age. You'll say print, we'll say age. Okay, just like that. Now assuming you want to print somebody's balance, let me just zoom in once more. Assuming we want to print somebody's balance, we'll say balance equals to 300 or whatever. And then now we want to say print balance. And then that happens. Now, so I've said variables are very important because they help us store information that is very big so that you don't have to type the same information over and over again. A variable also, from the literal meaning of the word, is something that will change. For example, somebody's balance is 23.44 today. But if you want to show them their balance in an ATM, you cannot print the same balance they had if they've withdrawn some money or if they've added some money. So here you can come and say balance equals to, now the balance is 45,000. Okay. Now here we say print balance. Okay, and we see balance is 45,000 and it's no longer 23.44. That is the importance of a variable. From the word itself, a variable, it changes. How I'm writing the code. Okay, so whatever I'm using here is called the Python interpreter. Remember, the Python interpreter, we installed it in the last class. So if you follow the instruction and you installed the Python interpreter, all you need to do to open it is to come to your Windows here, and then you scroll and look for Python. So mine is right here, and then I will say Python, and then it's open. So this is the window I was using to type. So remember, we've said Python is what you call the interpreter. Right now this is the interpreter. The work of the interpreter is to take whatever it is we are typing in English and convert it into binary, which is ones and zeros. Yeah, Nyongesa, we have started coding. So inside the interpreter, we want to do a couple of things. Number one, we want to store information. So let's say, for example, we were building a billing system. Let's look at how we can build it here. So we'll say seller. The seller is selling what? Or the seller's name is Moses, for example. What am I doing? Oh, I have to. Okay. I'm doing my own things here. The seller's name is Moses. The buyer's name is, let's say, for example, Gregory. Okay. what item is being sold? The item being sold is a car. And then what is the item amount? Item amount, can you please, when you explain something, you give us some time to write the same code. Oh, okay, I'll be doing that in a second. I'll let you type all this. And the item amount is 45,000 or 450,000, for example. Okay, let's just put a comma here for readability. No, let's just leave it like that. Okay, so we are building our billing system, and we've stored information about who is buying what and who is selling what. Okay, so for example, we want to see who's the buyer. So here we'll come and say print. We'll say print the buyer, and we hit enter. We see, oh, the buyer is Gregory. Okay, what if we want to print the price? Okay, we will say print print the item amount. Okay, and the item amount is printed. Now, right now what we are doing is we are interacting with the interpreter directly. Okay, and this is not the most common way we interact with the interpreter. So what we do in most cases, we type all our instructions into one file, and then we give that file to the interpreter to now interpret it. Okay, here's what we can do that in VS Code. So we'll leave alone the interpreter. We'll close it. We don't need it anymore. And then we'll go inside our VS Code. We will type the same thing inside our VS Code. Okay, so inside our VS Code, inside the starbill.py, we will delete everything, and then we say the customer is Moses, the seller is Gregory, and the item being bought is a Subaru Forester. Let me stop. Okay, and then we'll say the item amount. The item amount is, let's say, 1 million. Big cars, guys, big cars. So we'll say the item amount is 1 million. Okay, now at the bottom we want to print all the information. Okay, so we'll say oh, you can't see well. Let me try this. Let me let me see if I can change the theme. I do not know where I do that. Let me just see settings, profiles, command palette, extensions, themes. Let me change to color theme. Let me change to light, and we zoom in a little bit. Let's zoom in up to there. Pamela, can you now see? Okay, I think there's a delay in the response. I'll just see if you respond. So we want to print the details. So number one, oh yeah, Nyongesa, good luck with the semicolons. So we want to print the customer, and we want to print the seller. We also want to print the item being sold. Okay, so previously we were interacting with the interpreter directly. So we give our instructions to the interpreter, and then the interpreter interprets directly. But right now what we want to do is we want to store our information inside file called let me just close all this, save. So if you're using VS Code, it's also, you can also just come to the option here and set your automatic saving. Let me just see where that is. File, and then you scroll down to autosave. There's something called autosave. You see this autosave. You click on it so that you don't have to save every time you type. VS Code will save it automatically for you. So here we've done all this, and we want to give this file to our interpreter. So how do we do that? Now this is where CMD comes in. Remember CMD? Yeah, this is where it comes in. So number one, we have to open this folder inside our command prompt. Now you can do that using CMD here. You'll say CMD, and then you look for where your file is. So we know our file is inside desktop, so we'll say cd desktop, and then inside desktop our folder is written stable, so we can say cd stable like so, and then now we are inside stable. So if I do something like dir to list the contents of the directory, we can see we have readme, stable.go, stable.java, stable.js, and stable.py. But this is cumbersome because now you have to manage two applications. So what you're going to do is you are going to use cmd inside our VS Code. Okay. Thank you. I'll maintain the white background. So here I'm going to save file, and then I want to open the terminal. So I'm looking for the terminal. The terminal is right here, and then I will say new terminal, and then it opens this new terminal here. Okay. So right now it's showing us that it's PowerShell, but you want to use CMD. So we'll click on this and say, no, not that. I need to zoom out a little bit so that I can see. Okay, so we don't want PowerShell, we want CMD. Where is CMD? So we'll change this to command prompt right here. Instead of PowerShell, we'll change it to command prompt. And as you can see, it's showing you here that it's in command prompt. So we'll delete this, we don't need it, and then we remain with command prompt. So let's zoom in. All right, so inside this directory we have our file. So if we do dir, we can see again we have all the files. I think I need to, okay, we will see all the files. We have stable.py, stable.js. This file is what we want to give to the interpreter. Now, how do we do that? Number one, we have to confirm that our interpreter is present. Francis, where are you lost? Where are you lost, so that we see how to go back to you? All right, for those who are lost, let me start again. Okay, let's start again. So I will close VS Code. Okay, as a matter of fact, I will even delete this file. I've deleted it. Now we want to build a billing system, and we've said for a billing system we need to have the customer, we need to have the seller, we need to have the item and the item amount, and the medium of which they use to transact. Okay, so we've said we can pass those instructions directly to the interpreter. So we can just come here, you open the Python interpreter, and you type all your instructions right here. So let me just zoom in. I'm sorry, somebody said I use a white theme, but I don't know how to change the theme on Python, so you just bear with me on this one. So here we can say the customer, and we are storing the customer's name in what we call a variable. So you'll say the customer is Jared, for example, and the item being bought is a heater, for example. And then we want to get the information. Before you transact, you have to get the information. Who's buying what, who's selling what. So here we'll say print the customer, okay? And the customer gets printed. So here essentially we've built a part of our program, our billing program, okay? Here we've built a part of our billing program. But in most cases, we don't use the interpreter directly as we are doing here. Here, we are talking to the interpreter directly. No. In most cases, we pick all our files, all our instructions, we put them inside one file. And then we take that file, we give it to the interpreter, we tell him, hey, can you interpret this, okay? So to do that, we will use VS Code. So I will open VS Code here. First, I will create our project directory. So right here, I will new, and then I will say stable. We can say stable POS, point of sale. And then we open VS Code. So we'll come to Windows here, and we open VS Code. Now I'm doing this almost for the third time, so please pay attention to the repeated patterns or repeated actions. So we'll open VS Code. So inside VS Code, we will go to this icon right here. We will say file, and then we will say open folder. So inside open folder, we are going to look for our folder. So we will go to desktop, because our folder we know is in desktop. We'll go to desktop, and then we look for it, Starbuild POS. And then we click on it, we open it. Are we together so far? Who is behind? All right, so we proceed. So here we'll say, yes, I trust this author. Now, inside the billing POS, we said the first step is always to create a file that explains what you're doing. It explains your entire project and the steps you've broken down them into. So the file, we can create a .txt. So we can say instructions.txt. But this is how somebody who does not know how to code does it, okay? We all know how to code. We don't do things like this. So let's delete this file. And for our file, we are going to call it readme.md, readme.md. Now, inside readme.md, we explain what our project is, okay? So there's this thing here, which is an AI agent, which will help you write your code. But before you get to use an AI agent, you must understand what your code does and what, the structure of your code. So here, we are going to say the problem is billing POS, okay? And number one, we are going to store the customer information. So we'll say stored information. So here we'll say we want to store the customer. We want to store the seller. We want to store, I will get to how to access CMD in terminal, and then we want to store the item, and then we want to store the item amount, okay? But we've said all this is how we define a problem using, normal human language, but you want to define this using a programming language. Now, the programming language we want to use is called Python. There are so many programming languages. There is Go, there is Java, there is JavaScript, but let's use Python. So here, I want to create a file that will contain the Python instructions, okay? So I will call the file anything. I can say billing.pos, okay? Billingpos.py. Now, it's important you end your file with the language you're using. If you're using JavaScript, you'll come here and say billingpos.js, okay? If you're using a language like Java, you'll come here and say billingpos.java. But we are using Python, so that is why we've renamed ours Python, .py. So now inside .py, we want to store information. And how we store information using a programming language, is we use variables. So we create the first variable called customer, and then this first variable, we assign it a name, customer. We assign it that our customer's name is Jared, and the seller's name, the seller's name is Moses, and the item being bought is a car, let's say for example Impreza, and the item amount is let's say 3 million, okay? So we've stored our information. What if it's a mix of two languages? How do you store that? Yeah, you don't store two languages in the same file. You store them as I've explained here. If your program uses multiple languages, which is very possible, you store separate instruction files like I've done here. So for now, let's just go with .py. Now inside here, we want to print all this information. So we can say print, and then we say we want to print the customer. We also want to print, let's say for example, we just want to see the customer and what they are buying, item, and then we also want to print the item amount, okay? Up to there, are we together? All right, so we've written our instructions, but that is it. There's nothing else. We have not given our instructions to the interpreter. We have not run our code. We have not done anything else. So to run our code, we can just go to CMD. we can just go to CMD and then inside CMD we have to open the directory where our file is so that we can give it to the interpreter. But this is a lot of work. We don't want to use this. So instead of using the Windows CMD, we are going to use the CMD that VS Code comes with. So here I'll go to this icon right here. I will say terminal, new terminal, and then now inside the new terminal, it's now inside our project directory, stable POS. We can AD. Okay, I'll try to go slower. So inside here, we can maneuver around and see what is inside the directory. So we do that by using dir. If you came to the computer basics class, of course you understand this. We can do dir, but as you can see here, we are using PowerShell, and we don't want to use PowerShell. We want to use command prompt. So we can click on this and then change to command prompt right here. We'll close the PowerShell one, we don't need it. And then now we're remaining with command prompt, okay? Now inside command prompt, we want to take our file, our Python file with the instructions, and then we give that file to the interpreter. So to do that, number one, we have to confirm our Python interpreter is installed. So we'll say Python, and then we hit enter. So if you say something like this, it means the Python interpreter is installed, okay? So we'll just hit exit for now, and then we clear our screen so that we have a clean working terminal. So how do we take this file and give it to the interpreter? For guys on Mac, I think you can use the default terminal that comes with Mac. So how do we take this file and give it to the interpreter? We will say, first we will call the interpreter. This is what we mean by calling the interpreter, Python. And then we give it the file. We say billing pos.py, and then we hit enter. And as you can see, all this information is printed in the terminal. Okay, so if you are trying to follow through and you got lost, that's okay. What you can do is you can go back to this video on YouTube and then try to follow through at your own pace, okay? That way you'll understand it better. If you try to follow it right now and I'm going a little bit too fast, you can get lost. So just pay attention to what I'm doing. Just try to understand the general flow, and then later you can now do it practically. So that is what we've done. We've taken our file, we've created our instructions inside this file, and we've given it to the interpreter by this. This is how we give a file to the interpreter. Now, assuming we want to give, we want to paste the same instructions inside using JavaScript language. So we can take all this, and then we paste it inside the JS file, and then we call the interpreter and give it the JS file instead of the py file. So we'll say Python billing POS, but instead of py, we will say JS. So what happens? It's still being printed. Billing POS.js. My goodness, what is not happening? This is not supposed to print. Let me see. Is it autosave? Oh yeah. Billing POS.js. Let me try that again. Interesting. Python. Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. So the file is written JS, of course, but the instructions inside are Python instructions. And the Python interpreter only reads the contents of the file. So let's try to rename our .py to .txt, and then we see if the Python interpreter will get it. So we'll say rename, and then we say .txt. We hit enter. Let's try and see if it will print it, txt. And then as you can see, it's still being printed on the screen. So once you invoke the interpreter, it will print whatever is inside that file. Now, assuming our instructions are not in Python, let's say for example, we do not have this here, okay? And instead of this, we want to use a colon, okay? And then we save our work. And then we save our work, we try to print it again. Oh, that is a .py. So as you can see, it's throwing errors saying, hey, we do not understand what this customer is. It's because here, this is the wrong syntax. This is not how you write the thing in Python, okay? So we'll just go back to there. Now, in our billing POS, what other things can we do? For example, we want to capture the balance of the buyer, okay? So we'll say the customer balance is let's say 4 million, 5 million for example, and the car is 3 million. Is that 3 million? 3 million. This is 3 million. Okay, so let's just go through what we've done so far. So we've stored the customer information, we've stored the seller's information, we've stored the item and the item amount, and we've stored the customer balance, okay? And we have print customer, print item, print item amount. We also want to print the customer amount. So we'll say print, we'll say customer balance. Okay, and then here we run our code. And then you can say, of course, it's not very descriptive, but it's showing that we have 5 million, we have 3 million, it's Impreza, and the customer is Jared. Now, assuming we want to get the customer's new balance after they've done the transaction, okay? How can we do that? We can do that in various ways, okay? So here, we can create another variable. We say new customer balance, and then we say the new customer balance is customer balance minus the item amount, okay? And then right here we only want to print the new customer balance. We do not want to print everything. So here we'll say print customer balance, and then let's clear our screen, and then we run Python. Oh, what have we done? Item amount. Oh, it's double M. We are referring to a variable that is not there, so it has to be single M. Let's clear our screen again, and then we run it, and then we can see, so the new customer balance is 2 million, which is what they have, 5 million minus the amount they used to buy the car, okay? Now this gets very confusing, okay? This gets very confusing. Now, assuming you want to improve our program and you do not know what to do and you do not want to type a lot of code, okay? So we want to include a logic, okay? We want to check that did the customer actually buy the car? Or because if we print the new account balance, we want to see if the customer indeed bought the car, and that is what you look at next. Let me just give you guys a second to internalize what you've learned so far. Shoot any questions you have in the chats and I'll get to them. All right. So we proceed. So the takeaway from this class is, number one, you need to know how to invoke, we call it invoke or call the interpreter. So you can come down here and then look for Python and then look for Python, this one, and then you open it. Once you have it open, try to play around with it using variables. So number one, say for example, dog's name is Martin. Okay, use the same variable but a different name. So let's say dog's name. Now we're not going to call it Martin, let's call it Mavu. Okay, now let's print dog's name. We say print dog's name. So when we print the dog's name, we see it's Mavo. Okay, but we had Mavo, we had Martin. What happened to Martin? And this is why we need variables, because variables store information that changes. In a POS, for example, or in a billing software, in a billing software, the customer is not always one person, Jared. The customer can be Irene, the customer can be Sam, the customer can be anybody. Okay, so we use variables to store information that change frequently. So here, for example, and the pattern here, because some things I let you guys try to spot out, okay? So the pattern here is when we are using strings, we call them strings, which is alphabetical letters. Like for example, Moses, whatever, we use the quotation marks around it. But if you're using numbers, we don't use quotation marks. Let's see how that happens with the interpreter. So if we go back to the interpreter, and instead of typing a variable with the quotes, let's say for example, first name is we're not using quotes, first name is Jared. Immediately you hit enter, you'll get an error saying, hey, we do not understand this thing. It's because in any programming language, anything that is not in brackets will have to be referring to something else inside the code or earlier on in your program. Okay, so just understand that for now. The other thing is, why are we using the underscore here? Variables have to be one name, they don't have to be two names. For example, if you say first and then you say name and then you say Jared, you hit enter, again you get an error, tells you, hey, what is this name? But if you do the same thing and instead of just leaving it blank, you delete that space, oh, okay, we are still using Jared without quotes, so we have to put quotes here. Okay, and there is no error. So if you, even if you try to print that first name, you get Jared. Now, so it's important. There's a whole concept of how we put it in brackets, how variables as you what pointers, but don't worry about all that. For now, just know if you are assigning a variable and it's a name, it's something to do with the alphabet, it has to be in quotes. And the variable has to be one name. Okay, now let's try other forms of the variable. Let's assume we are using an underscore right here, and then we hit enter, we get no error. So let's try to print the first name. So we'll say first name, and then it gets printed. But what if our variable starts with a 2 or a 3? Okay, let's try to print. Once you hit enter, you get an error. So these are some of the things about programming languages that you only master if you play around with whatever you're doing. So if I tell you write a variable, don't just write a variable, try to put other things in that variable. So here we can try to add an underscore after the variable name. We hit enter, there is no error. But what if we add a number at the end? We hit enter, there is no error. What if we want to add an asterisk or any symbol, for example an at? Okay, we hit enter, we get an error. Okay, so these are some of the things you cannot learn in one class. Neither can somebody tell you everything. They are just things you will play around and then you see the errors. So now back to our POS program. So what we've done so far, we've stored all this information, and then we have the balance, what the item will cost, and the balance that the buyer, the customer has. Now here we are just directly trying to calculate the new balance, but we don't know has this customer bought the price or not. Now, we're using print statement here because remember what I said in our previous class. The whole concept of software engineering is we store data, we manipulate data, and we present data. We store data using variables like I've shown here. We store data using lists or dictionaries, and then we manipulate data using this and other forms of manipulation. For example, we can try to change the strings in a name. For example, instead of Moses, we can say Sesmo, okay? But in a simpler form, how do we present data? We've done manipulating the data. How do we present it? We present the data using the print keyword. So for example, if you go to an ATM and you want to check your balance, there's a code inside that says print balance, and then you see the balance. So that is why we are using print here. If we don't have print here, let's delete it, and then we try to run our code. Let's try to run our code, CLS, and then we try to run our code. As you can see, nothing is printed. We are not presenting the data. We've stored the data, we've manipulated it, but what are we presenting? We are not presenting anything. So it gives you empty. But if you add that print statement inside, and then you run your code again, as you can see, it's printing something on the screen. I hope that is clear now. Now, so what if we want to check if the customer has actually bought the item? Okay? We understand the logic, we store the information, but we do not know how to write the code. But you know what we want? We want to find out if the customer actually bought the item. And that is where AI comes in, okay? So we can take all this code, and then inside the inbuilt AI agent right here, in this chatbot, we are going to say, add a very simple logic to check if the customer bought the item before deducting his balance, okay? And then we paste the code that we have, and then we hit. So right here it's written auto. Now these are different modes. So for our case, we want to put the agentic mode, okay? So here, it's agent, sorry. Here it's agent. This is just the model we use. So we just go with auto, and then we hit enter. So you need to sign in, but let's try and skip for now. Oh, you need to, okay, we can just proceed and sign in. So I thought I had signed in. So let me confirm I have GitHub set up here. So I will go to GitHub. Or alternatively, once you're done typing the command, I've just realized I've confused you guys. So let's try to use another tool that does not require all this setup. So just ignore this for now, okay? We will type the same question, but in another tool called Gemini. So in the browser, you're going to go to Gemini and type the same question, okay? Like so. Add a very simple logic to check if the customer bought the item before deducting his balance, okay? And then we hit enter. Okay, who have I confused? Are we on the same track? Anime Prime, thank you very much for stepping in. Mshigati, yes, this recording will stay on YouTube for revisions later. All right, so yeah, of course, Gemini has written a lot of things, and it has even explained here what we are doing, but let's just do this for now. Let's copy this code. We can just hit the copy icon here, and then we go to our terminal, and then we paste whatever Gemini has given us. But this is not where it ends. We have to read through the code and understand what is happening, okay? I'm lost. Isaac, I think you'll have to go back to the recording and then see if you can catch up. So what we've done is, let's go back again and try to retrace our steps, okay? So we are building a billing system. Number one, we've stored the name of the customer, we've stored the name of the seller, we stored the item, we've stored the item amount, we've stored the customer balance. And now what we want to do is we want to get the new customer balance after they've bought the item. Okay, so we are saying the customer's new balance is customer balance minus the item amount, okay, what it cost, and then we print the new customer balance. But there is something missing here. There's something missing here. We do not know if the customer indeed bought the item or not. We do not know. So that is the logic we want to add. So to do that, we of course understand the logic. We understand the end result, but we do not know the actual code. So we are going to copy what we have, and then we go to your browser. We'll go to gemini.com if you don't have that set up. And then inside Gemini, we are going to say, add a very simple logic to check if the customer bought the item before deducting his balance. Okay, and we'll paste whatever we have, whatever we've written so far. Historical facts. We did discuss when we were starting the session. We mentioned what we will build at the end of this course. So you can go back to the recording when we started and then see what we talked about. So we are going to copy whatever Gemini has given us, the updated code. We are going to copy it. And then we come inside our code, we paste it, okay? And then now we have to read and understand what is happening, okay? So here, we've stored the customer, we've stored the seller, we've stored the item, what the item will cost. We've stored the customer balance. And then now, this is our logic. This is our logic, okay? We want to find out, has the customer actually bought the item? And here we are saying, here in fact it's supposed to be did customer buy item. Now if you've noticed, Gemini has generated the code for me, but I know how to work with the code. I know how to read it. I understand what is happening. I understand everything about the code, and that is the missing bit that everybody should understand. You don't just give your instructions to an AI agent to write the code for you and that's it. No, you have to own the code. So here I've changed the variable from customer bought, or from bought item to did the customer actually buy the item, and then we are saying true, yes, the customer bought the item. And then in our logic, before we deduct the amount, we want to confirm. So we'll copy this variable because we've changed it. And then right here, we will say if did the customer buy the item. If it's true, now we calculate the balance. We say customer balance equals to customer balance minus the item amount, okay? Now, and then we print purchased confirmed customer's new. Now we've not talked about this, so this is very confusing. So I'll just delete it, and then I'll say we just want to print the customer balance. We just want to print the customer balance. We don't want anything else. And then, what if this is not true? What if this is not true? The customer did not buy the item. We will print customer balance, and then we see what the balance is. So I will delete all of this up to this point, and then we just want to print the customer balance. Now let's run the code and see. So we'll give our file to Python interpreter and hit enter, and indeed we see the customer now has 2 million. Is this 2 million? Yes, the customer now has 2 million, but the customer had 5 million before we started running the project, okay? But assuming the customer did not buy the item, so here we will say, did customer buy the item? No. So we'll represent that with a false. So we'll say false. Okay, that is everything we will change, and then we run our code again. So once you run your code, you see the balance is 5 million. Okay, the balance is 5 million. So the customer has not bought the item, so our POS will not minus will deduct anything. Okay, so I will share this code in the Discord server. for you guys to play around. Do try and change things. Change this to, for example, Moses 3, change it to remove the quotation marks and everything, and see what output you get. So in the next class, we'll go through how to set this up, and then we dive deeper into now adding more features to our billing POS. All right, is there any questions? Which part was most confusing? Which part was most confusing? All right, so I do repeat again. The methodology I use to teach. Oh my goodness, the methodology I use to teach is introduction, confusion, pattern identification, and then mastery. A lot of people give up at the confusion phase. You get introduced to a topic, it doesn't make sense. Like right now, I know most of you, you've been introduced, you've identified some small patterns, but you're still between confusion and pattern identification. And our brain has this thing where if it gets to something that is confusing, that is not clear, it tells you to give up right away, which is not what you want to do in this course. So you have to spend some time in the confusion stage, and in spending that time in the confusion stage, you start identifying patterns like, oh, so here we use a print statement, here we use a quotation mark, here we use whatever. Once you identify the patterns, you now practice more, which will lead you to mastery, which is now when you understand the entire topic and everything. Oh, the terminal part, Mike. Oh yeah, hola. All right. The Discord link, I think I had it somewhere here. Let me just paste it again. So the problem is you guys say you are confused, but you don't come to the office hours class, and you also do not text on Discord. So how exactly would you be helped? We've said that if we covered something in class and you do not understand, first and foremost, you must have a notepad. Okay? The notepad, I will paste the code on Discord, Francis. The notepad is for you to write down the confusing bits of the class, okay? So that you can later paste whatever was confusing in the help channel. On Discord, we have the help channel. If something was confusing, you paste it there. Also, if you come to the office hours class, that is where we have a look at what we learned, which parts were confusing, and then I will take you slowly through the parts that were confusing. So that is how we structure the course, and that is how we agreed. Yeah, we will have a hackathon. Why use the Python interpreter, Hassan? All right, so that's it for this session. Thank you all for coming. As you all know, the course is absolutely free, but like I said, a lot of resources have gone into making of this course. This is actually my third cup of the day of coffee. So I do appreciate for those who are willing to make a donation. And if you would like to make a donation, you can use the number I've pasted in the charts. So I have a weekly fundraising, and the fundraising for this week and next week was $200. That is about $200. That's about 20,000. We are currently at, I think, around 50. So feel free to make a donation of whatever amount to that number. For my friends in outside the country, for Ugandans, there's a mobile money number I shared in the announcement, and you can also use PayPal using my email. Eon shift. You cannot build a project without understanding the fundamentals, the variables, input, output. And I showed you with an example here. This is a project I created for, it's something to do with AI. As you can see, it's an entire project, yes, but if you read through it, you can see we have the use of variables right here. This is a variable. We also have the use of print statements. I think I added them down somewhere. We have print statements here, as you can see. We also have another print statement here. So you cannot build an actual project without understanding the fundamentals. So this is just where we started. And when we started the class, I explained the type of project we will build towards the end of this class. We are going to build a platform which will have a website, and it will also have a mobile Android application. Rosaline, don't give up. You're in the confusion stage. Now what I want you to do is I want you to go through this video again from the very first minute to the last minute. Go through it again, write down the most confusing parts, and then shoot your text in the help channel on Discord, and we'll pick it from there. Alright, so your take-home exercise for this class is to download and install the Python interpreter. Do text on Discord if you get stuck. Download and install the Python interpreter. Then inside the Python interpreter, I want you to create a variable for your age and print that variable. That's it. Don't do anything else. You can do anything else if you want, but I want you to print your name and age in the Python interpreter, and then take a screenshot and paste it in the achievements in the 8 hours challenge Discord. So paste your output there, and then we'll see. Yeah, I'm teaching project based because at the end I want us to build an actual system. I just don't want you to learn fundamentals and whatnot and then throw you in the wild. I want you to learn and towards the end build an actual system that will be used in the real world. Historical facts, I've already clarified. I've said go to the beginning of the course. You'll see exactly what we'll build towards the end of this course. Babu Dan, I don't know if that will work. But sure, I think I'll give it a try. Alright, that's it. See you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. as we proceed with the sessions. Bye.